Now, Donald Trump Jr., the son of the 45th president, joins me down the line right now. Don Jr., let's be honest about this. The scenes that took place, the storming of the Capitol on January the 6th, 2021, it was a pretty ugly event, wasn't it?
Listen, I think it could be ugly, and yet you look at what happened for the 18 months prior to that, which got absolutely no attention. The ransacking of our cities, murder, rape, looting, arson during what the left dubbed the Summer of Love, what happened in the United States. And I think what we're seeing right now, Nigel, is just that, an unequal system of justice where people can ransack buildings, they can take over courthouses, they can take over entire sections of towns like they did in Seattle and Portland, to no consequence. And, you know, of course, someone who acts out of line and assaults a police officer, yes, they should be in trouble. No one's questioning that. But when I see people put in jail for 2 years who are walking through in between the velvet ropes, taking a selfie of themselves, probably not even knowing they weren't supposed to be in there by that point in time, that doesn't paint a picture of the America that I know and love. And if you look at what's going on as it relates to my father, right? Another indictment. Strangely, the indictments always fall a day after information about Joe Biden, his links to bribery scandals, credible evidence of money, links where we're literally, you know, decisions could be being made because an enemy of our country or even an ally has information about the Bidens, as with Ukraine, right? Credible information comes out, the FBI, Joe Biden linked to $10 million bribery scheme for Burisma. Next day, Trump indictment number one, right? Hunter Biden information leak, sweetheart deal comes out, yada, yada, yada. Next day, we're going to add on to what's going on with Trump. I mean, yesterday, same thing. Devin Archer, Hunter Biden's best friend. Joe Biden took part in 20-plus phone calls. He knew about it. He was the big guy, his 10%, yada, yada, yada. The next day, another indictment. I mean, are we going to believe that this is all coincidence at this point?
I get that. And I think there's a huge, huge shadow over Joe Biden's behaviour, and in particular, over Hunter's. I agree with all of that. But if we think back to that day of January the 6th, there was a rally that took place. Donald Trump spoke. Rudy Giuliani spoke in a pretty aggressive way. I mean, the accusation basically is that the 45th president incited people to storm the Capitol. That's really what this is all about. Yeah, what would you say to that?
Unless you listen to the words that came out of his mouth, Nigel. Yeah. I mean, peacefully and patriotically, make your voices heard. I mean, it can't get any more clear than that. But again, in the world in which we live today, it's okay if you're on the radical left. You can weaponize the entire federal government against your political enemies, whether it's our Department of Justice, whether it's the FBI, and those same forces will do whatever they possibly can in their power to protect their cronies and the alike. And that's why, you know, I don't believe any of this has anything to do with January 6th. If it did, and if January 6th was everything that they said, why, Nigel, did they wait 2.5 years to charge him? I mean, the people that were there that did those, they were charged that day. Yeah. Why'd they wait 2.5 years?
What is absolutely true?
You know, the day after another breaking news, they charged this.
What is absolutely true,
Nigel? No.
And what's been underreported, I think, by much of American media is the point you made a moment ago. He did say, go peacefully. And that seems to be ignored by many people.
Well, what's also underreported is, as we've seen from Tucker Carlson, the videos and exculpatory evidence for so many people that were held in prison for 2 years. It turns out they did nothing wrong because a narrative was trying to be created, right? I've had Darren Beatty on my Triggered podcast before. He's the guy from Revolver News that broke the story about the bombs at the DNC and the RNC that day. How come we don't even hear about that? There's not even like an investigation. No. It's almost as though that was like the plan if they weren't able to get other things going on. You have Hillary Clinton stepping in to help, or her attorneys stepping in to help Ray Epps, the guy on video seen storm the Capitol, whatever it was that he was saying, inciting that kind of violence. Why on earth would Hillary Clinton's legal team, the same D.C. Democrat lawyers that they would certainly never, step in to defend Trump or any other MAGA patriot, they'd be helping this guy? It's a creation.
Either way.
That doesn't mean that there weren't a few people that did something wrong.
Yeah,
but
of course.
If 1 million people show up and 5 people act terribly, that's not an indictment of half the country, Nigel.
Let's be clear. Nobody should have entered the Capitol building, all right? I mean, that's absolutely clear. Many of them did say
that.
Many of them did say peacefully. I get that. Now, look, it is indictment after indictment, and we're told it's going to be Georgia that comes next week or the week after. And yet, it seems with each indictment, when it comes to the runoff as the primaries approach for who's going to be the candidate for the Republican Party, this seems to be making Trump stronger, not weaker.
Yeah, I think people understand what's going on. Nigel, there's been a lot of people sort of politically agnostic in our country. They don't want to have to choose sides. Unfortunately, it's gotten to the point where we probably don't have a choice, because I think they understand that it's only a matter of time till they go after them or their children. You see the crap that the left is trying to push in our schools, and men playing women's sports, and all of the nonsense that has become the hills to die on for today's radical left. And they understand what's going on. They understand that there's not this much coincidence. Those that believe that maybe there was something to Russia after all this time realized that and it was another creation. I think people understand in this country that they have to get involved right now. They can no longer be forced into silence and submission and total capitulation, or they're going to wake up one day and they're not going to have a country left. And, whether that's physically, whether that's through banking, whether people see the attacks, you've witnessed it yourself. I know I have. This is what's going on. The left will take nothing but complete submissiveness, complete capitulation. And people are seeing it. They've had enough, and they're finally now becoming unafraid.
Listen, I know all about the Russia hoax. That rather unkind report of me with a bank that cancelled me mentioned Russia 144 times. So I get that. I understand that. A final thought, Don, if I can. Your father is a man of extraordinary resilience. I watched him, from the moment he won the election. They did everything they could to discredit him. We had the Russia hoax, etc. On a human level, having these indictments piling up, how is he managing?
Honestly, he's doing great. And you speak to him a lot as well. But I called him yesterday after another one, and it was sort of like ho-hum, like, why are you calling? And because it's become so commonplace. It's like Taco Tuesday, Nigel. It just happens every week. There's another indictment. The second there's some sort of news from, the Biden crime family, literally, if you take 1% of the stuff that they're talking about on a daily basis, that would be the biggest actual political scandal in American history. And yet it's covered up as though it doesn't exist. He understands what's going on. He understands what's at stake for him. But again, why he's doing this. He's doing this because he's fighting for what's left of our country. They're trying to make sure that no one like Donald, it's not just an attack on Donald Trump, it's that no one ever decides to take on the hegemony of that uni party, of that DC establishment. They want to make sure to disincentivize any individual who wasn't part of that bureaucracy from day one, who maybe did really well and was successful on their own from getting into government, because these people, for the most part, are absolutely worthless other than they're good bureaucrats. They're very good at parlaying that power. They're not particularly good at anything. They've never really signed a paycheck, but they figured out what they're good at, and they're not going to allow a threat to that power, because with that power comes money and everything else that they've created that they don't deserve.